Before we get into the video, could everyone please subscribe to my Endless Diary Tales channel? Thank you so much. I was transmigrated as the villain's wicked stepmother, and the system demanded I not break character. I looked down at the 5-year-old pipsqueak at my feet, and viciously swapped the milk in his hand for bitter melon juice. From that day on, he was never allowed to be a picky eater. If he wanted a pet, he was the designated poop scooper. Later, when it was time for his university applications, I even secretly changed his choices. Years later, the villain was successful and famous. I thought my doom was at hand. Instead, he stood before the media and said, "The person I'm most grateful for is my mother. Her love guided me as I grew, and she pointed me toward my path in life." Wait, is something not quite right here? After dying from an illness, the system allowed me to continue living by transmigrating me as the villain's wicked stepmother. The price was that I couldn't break character. This was an urban novel for a male audience. Zuyu, only 5 years old now, would one day become the great villain who destroyed the male protagonist's family, and the primary source of his psychological trauma was me, his wicked stepmother. I pondered for a moment. I really had no experience in being wicked, so I simplified it to a basic concept. I just couldn't let him be too comfortable. Thus, I turned to the little pipsqueak sitting quietly in his chair, sipping his milk. I snatched the cup from his hand and gave it to the nanny. "Change this to bitter melon juice. The more bitter, the better." The little guy froze for a second, a white mustache of milk still on his upper lip. He glared at me angrily but didn't dare to speak. When I transmigrated, this body had already been married into the Zhu family for over half a year. According to the original plot, after discovering that Zhu Qinji, the villain's father, was rarely home, I gradually dropped my gentle facade. I began to torment and frame little Zuyu in various ways. He had resisted at first, but what chance did a child have against an adult? Whenever he tried to tattle, I would just double down, framing him and twisting his words. After prolonged psychological abuse, he had learned to swallow his anger. My job now was to continue this behavior and maybe add a little personal flair. Zuyu had probably never had bitter melon juice before. His little face scrunched up, and he subconsciously stuck out his tongue. My heart melted at his cuteness, but I still said coldly, "Drink it all." For a child, eating bitter melon is a form of torture. How is this not a form of abuse? I was just too good at being a wicked stepmother. At that thought, I couldn't help but let out a laugh. After breakfast, the nanny was about to take Zuyu to school. I frowned as I watched him change into a set of cheap, shabby clothes. "Why are you deliberately dressing like this? Didn't you say before that we shouldn't encourage a child's vanity, and that it's better to be low-key?" Thesis. Tusk. The original character's persona was truly malicious and insidious. To think she'd try to crush Zuyu's self-esteem this way, but she had miscalculated. What do kindergartners know about wealth and poverty? At this age, what children fear most is being ostracized and isolated. With that in mind, I immediately had the nanny change Zuyu into a little suit. He even wore a cute little bow tie. Then I had the driver bring out the most expensive, most ostentatious car from the garage. I had to ensure he would be the most special kid in the entire kindergarten. Envy the rich? I want them all to envy the rich. Perhaps because my behavior was a little different from usual. Before leaving, little Zuyu pursed his lips nervously and asked softly, "Why are you doing this?" I squatted down and let out a couple of sinister cackles. "Because I'm evil." Little Zuyu stumbled back in fright. I took the opportunity to lunge forward and plant a kiss on his chubby little cheek. He covered his face in horror. I seized the chance to threaten him. "Hurry up and say goodbye to mommy or I'll come to the kindergarten and corner you myself this afternoon." After our past 6 months together, he was supposed to hate me. Me kissing him and making him call me mommy was tantamount to dancing on his last nerve. But he had no choice but to submit. Watching Zuyu's tightly shut mouth as he ran out the door, I felt I was being wicked beyond measure. After Zuyu left for school, I started wandering aimlessly around the villa. The novel mentioned that Zhu Qinji was busy with work and often wouldn't come home for 10 days or even half a month at a time. I was essentially a wife he married just to take care of Zuyu. He gave me 3 million a month for living expenses. He probably thought the huge allowance would make this stepmother treat his child well, but he never expected it would instead fuel her greed. Thinking of this, I asked the system with a sigh, "How long do I have to maintain this wicked persona?" The system said, "Zuyu's stepmother has a crucial scene where she secretly changes his university application choices, forcing him to go abroad where he encounters even darker things. So I had to maintain my persona at least until Zoo's college entrance exams. A rough calculation put that at least 13 years away. Although living the life of a rich man's wife was a win in itself, maintaining a wicked persona every day was exhausting. So I decided to go on a wild shopping spree to console myself. As dusk began to settle, the driver pulled up to the kindergarten right on time. Zuyu hadn't said goodbye to me when he left this morning. If I said I'd pick him up, I had to keep my word to firmly establish my authority and let him know the terror of his stepmother. I had to admit this private kindergarten was built like a small castle. Before long, a teacher led a group of tiny tots to the gate. They waddled over to find their parents. I sat in the car for a while first. My plan was to suddenly appear when Zuyu was panicking that his parent had forgotten him, giving him a good scare. But to my surprise, as soon as the teacher left, several kids immediately surrounded Zuyu. I could faintly hear them saying something like, "Mommy came to pick up." Zuyu lowered his head in silence. Those kids then started jumping around him, clapping their hands. Me? Wait, what kind of game is this? As a proper wicked stepmother, I immediately appeared to interrupt their fun. "Hey, why haven't you little brats gone home yet? Don't tell me your parents abandoned you. No way. No way." I pulled the surrounded Zuyu to my side and glared fiercely at the group of children. "Yes, this is it. I'm going to alienate all his friends. Who are you? Are you the liar's big sister?" Being called big sister made me feel a little giddy, but I immediately retorted, "What liar? Who's a liar? Didn't your teacher teach you to call people by their names? I'm Zuyu's mother. Zuyu doesn't like you, so you're not allowed to play with him anymore." "Zuyu's mother? His mother is the nanny. I've seen her. She doesn't look like you, and he lied and said that wasn't his mother. He's just a vain liar. We don't want to play with him anyway. What was all this nonsense? I am Zuyu's mother." I raised my fist in anger, and the group of brats immediately ran off laughing. Just then, Zuyu, who had been standing behind me, tugged on the corner of my clothes. His big eyes were shimmering as he looked at me. "Thank you for picking me up today. Something isn't right. Why is he thanking me?" Perhaps my move to establish authority was effective. Zuyu was exceptionally well behaved when we got home. Not only did he follow me around like a little puppy, but he even peeled shrimp for me at dinner. He carefully placed the shrimp in my bowl. When he saw I wasn't eating it, he even added, "I washed my hands." I picked up my chopsticks. "Delicious. You did a good job. As a reward, you can peel a few more for me." Little Zuyu pursed his lips and lowered his head, starting to peel shrimp with great concentration. Finally, I couldn't eat anymore, and the remaining shrimp went into his stomach. I was too full from dinner, so I needed some exercise. Considering my wicked persona, what better exercise was there than tormenting a child? I walked into the room carrying 18 shopping bags. I beckoned to Zuyu, who was playing with a 9-linked ring puzzle. "Come try on some clothes." Little Zuyu's clothes were usually custom-made and delivered directly. He had probably never had to try on clothes before, so he was quite excited at first. He even smiled, revealing his little canine teeth, until later when he choked back a sob. "Please, I can't try on anymore." But we still haven't tried the little bee, the little penguin, the little yellow duck, and the little monster outfits. Zuyu fell silent. He just stood there in the little green dinosaur costume, looking at me with teary eyes. Me? Fine. The wicked plan continues, just with a different activity. When it was time for bed, I decided to subject Zuyu to one last round of torture for the day. I forced him to stay in my room and sleep with me. After he changed into his pajamas, I handed him a storybook. "Read, Mommy." A story to help her fall asleep. Zuyu stared blankly as if he couldn't comprehend how such a shameless adult could exist. But he still took the storybook. Once upon a time, a queen was sitting by an open window sewing for her daughter. I forgot the kid was only 5 and didn't know many words. But this gave me an idea. Most kids love to play and hate to study. A flash of inspiration struck me. A wicked plan slowly began to form in my mind. Beside me, Zuyu was still stumbling through the storybook. He probably knew he didn't recognize many words, and seeing me staring at him, his little face flushed red, and his voice grew quieter and quieter. "I'll read to you again tomorrow, okay?" I let out a couple of sinister cackles and snatched the book from him. "Lie down. Now it's Mommy's turn to tell you a story." Today's story is called Snow White and Her 7 Stepmothers. An absolutely terrifying story. In the end, I don't know if Zuyu fell asleep, but I certainly talked myself to sleep. In a daze, I thought I felt something soft press against my cheek, and a soft voice calling me Mommy. The next morning, while Zuyu was at school, I began to implement my intensive tutoring plan. I arranged for everything: Chinese, advanced math, English, and music. I hired the best tutors and assigned the toughest books. I had expected Zuyu to come home from school and feel like his world was ending, but he adapted surprisingly well. He was especially diligent with learning to read. A few days later, as I was passing the study, he poked his little head out and read aloud. "Once upon a time, a queen was sitting by an open window doing needlework for her daughter." After finishing, he looked at me with an expectant face. To encourage him, I decided to reward him by having him read me a bedtime story every night. Half a month later, my wicked stepmother plan had made no new progress. I sent Zuyu back to his own room. Then I hid under the covers and secretly opened a copy of Cinderella, hoping to find some inspiration. I didn't expect to fall asleep after reading just 2 pages. When I woke up again, the mattress dipped twice and a section by the edge of the bed sank. In the darkness, I couldn't see clearly and just assumed Zuyu had snuck in. I subconsciously reached out to pull the blanket over him, but my hand touched a firm, muscular chest. I froze for a second, then frantically turned on the bedside lamp, a scream tearing from my throat. "Whoa, who the hell are you, buddy?" The handsome man before me bore a slight resemblance to Zuyu. He raised an eyebrow at my words. "If I recall correctly, I should be your husband." Husband Zhu Qingli. Oh my God, I almost forgot about him. Not bad. At least you still remember my name. I sheepishly explained to my benefactor that I was just groggy from sleep. Just then there was an urgent knock on the door. Before I could say anything, the person anxiously turned the doorknob. Zuyu was standing at the door, hugging his teddy bear, a baby with his little bare feet. Seeing Zhu Qingli, he stared blankly and called out, "Dad." Then he walked over to me and placed his small hand on my head. "What's wrong? Did you have a nightmare?" With Zhu Qingli here, I knew I couldn't reveal my stepmother nature, so I gently soothed Zuyu and urged him to go back to sleep. Unexpectedly, little Zuyu nodded but walked directly to the other side of the bed. He looked at his dad and said with a hint of grievance, "This is my spot." "No, this is Dad's spot," Zhu Qingli said sternly. "Before Dad came back, I always slept here. That was just temporary. Now you should go back to your own room." Yu pursed his lips and said nothing. He silently handed me his baby, saying that hugging it would prevent nightmares. It seemed Zhu Qingli was a standard strict father, raising his child without spoiling him. No wonder it took him 8 years in the original novel to discover I was abusing Zuyu. Seeing that Zuyu was about to leave, I panicked. I quickly picked him up and placed him in the middle of the bed. "Good boy. Sleep with Mommy and Daddy tonight." Zuyu looked at me, then at his dad, a little confused. I immediately acted cute. Honey, calling him honey was better than sharing a bed with a stranger. Zhu Qingli stiffened, grunted in agreement, and turned his back to lie down. For some reason, though, the tips of his ears were bright red. Perhaps because the company was gradually getting on track. Zhu Qingli stayed home for an unusually long time. At the dinner table, he asked Zuyu how he had been lately. I shot Zuyu a standard warning smile, glaring at him fiercely. Sure enough, he pursed his little lips and said he had been especially happy recently. He mentioned that when he had a nosebleed from being too hot a while ago, I had the nanny prepare bitter melon juice for him every day, and he got better after just 2 days. He also said, "I picked him up from school personally every day, bought him beautiful clothes, chased away the kids who bullied him, and even hired tutors to help him catch up on his lessons. Even his real mom wouldn't be this attentive." I was so moved I almost cried. This kid was a fantastic storyteller. Zhu Qingli also seemed very satisfied and immediately transferred 5 million to me, telling me to buy whatever I liked. I was so happy I wanted to salute on the spot and shout, "Thank you, boss," 3 times. For the next few days, I diligently played the role of a loving mother until Zhu Qingli had to go abroad again to manage a branch office. I turned to look at Zuyu, who was politely saying goodbye at the door, and let out a sinister cackle. "Your good days are over, little one." As the system-appointed wicked stepmother, I must remember my original purpose and not forget my mission. That night, I put the inspiration I got from Cinderella into practice on Zuyu. I pointed at his used bowl and chopsticks and said, "You go wash these." Zuyu said, "Oh," and obediently carried his small bowl to the sink. As he washed, he asked me, "Should I add this? Is it clean now?" It was a bit like playing house. He seemed to be enjoying it. I snorted, directing him while announcing my new rule. From now on, not only did he have to wash his own dishes, but he also had to wash his own socks and underwear. He was to become the Cinderfella of the new era. On the weekend, I hired a fitness coach to train Zuyu in running. I had done my best with psychological torment. Now I could only think of tormenting him physically, so Zuyu and the coach ran themselves ragged up front while I took a leisurely stroll behind them. As we started the second lap, a faint meow came from behind a bush. I pushed the branches aside and saw a small pure white kitten. It was filthy and could barely walk steadily. Just then a panting Zuyu came over. "It's a kitten. Why is it here all alone? Where's its mommy? Maybe she went out for something." Zuyu nodded and said nothing. But for the rest of the training session, his mind was clearly elsewhere. As the sky darkened and it was time to go home, Zuyu looked at the kitten, still in the same spot. Hasn't its mommy come back yet? Judging by the kitten's fur, it had most likely been abandoned. I didn't say anything, but Zuyu seemed to understand. He walked over, cradled the kitten in his arms, and looked at me with a pleading gaze. "Can we keep it?" For the sake of my wicked stepmother persona, I should have thrown the kitten out of his arms right then and scolded him for getting his clothes dirty. But with 2 pairs of round eyes staring at me, my heart just melted. Just this once, I thought to myself. Then I went to the supermarket next door and got a cardboard box. On the way back, Zuyu took the rare initiative to hold my hand. His hand was small, only able to grasp 3 of my fingers. I looked down, and the usually expressionless child actually gave me a fawning smile. I thought he was expressing his gratitude for the kitten, but as we entered the house, he whispered in my ear, "I'll be good. I'll be good, so please don't be like the kitten's mommy and abandon me." My eyes grew hot and my nose tingled, but a wicked stepmother must never show weakness. I nonchalantly pinched Zuyu's little cheek and said in a harsh tone, "From now on, you're in charge of scooping the poop, and I'm in charge of petting the cat." The kitten was named Snow White. Zuyu said that even though Snow White only had one stepmother, he would take good care of her. The next day I saw Zuyu consulting the nanny. With his little bottom in the air, he was huffing and puffing as he fed the kitten milk and scooped its litter. The days passed unhurriedly. Zukingli would occasionally come back and bring gifts for me and Zuyu. Aside from being gone for 10 days to half a month at a time, he was actually a pretty good guy. I don't know if other wealthy wives feel empty because their husbands are never home, but for me this life was awesome. One day, I was lying on the living room couch watching a trashy web series about rich family drama. Zuyu suddenly ran up to me. "The kindergarten is holding a parent-child sports day in a couple of days. Can you come?" I raised an eyebrow. Little Zuyu immediately said, "I'll peel pommel for you and I'll tell you a story at night." As if afraid I wouldn't agree, he bit his lip and added that he was willing to continue trying on clothes with me. I scratched my head. For a moment I couldn't tell who the child was. Since I was bored at home anyway, I agreed. Zuyu let out a small cheer. Watching his skipping figure, I felt that this child had become much more lively than when I first met him. On the day of the parent-child sports day, I woke up especially early. I put my hair up and changed into casual wear. When the teacher saw me, she was taken aback for a moment. "You're Zuyu's parent, the person who came last time. I don't think it was you." I was also taken aback and looked down at Zuyu. He pursed his lips. "The nanny came last time. So that's how it was. No wonder those brats said Zuyu's mother was the nanny. Who in their right mind would have a nanny attend their child's school activities?" I awkwardly explained the situation to the teacher and left my contact information. saying she could contact me for anything related to Zuyu in the future. The opening ceremony of the sports day was a group dance by the kindergartners. Every child had to go up and perform. Zuyu stood in the front row. As he danced, he kept glancing at me. His little face was as red as a tomato. I couldn't help but start snapping pictures with my phone like crazy. Just then the system came online. Do you still remember your persona is a wicked stepmother? Remember your original purpose and don't forget your mission. This I immediately argued. I'm saving these to humiliate Zuyu later. Just imagine in broad daylight at the height of his success, a big screen suddenly starts playing a video of you doing a butt-wiggling dance in kindergarten. How is that not a complete and utter social ruin? I could clearly sense that the system was a bit speechless, but thankfully it didn't press the issue. After the opening ceremony was the parent-child relay race. With teams formed by drawing lots for Zuyu who had been training for a while, this was a piece of cake. Just as Zuyu was about to win by a landslide, a brat from the next team taunted him. The nanny your family sent this time is much younger and prettier than the last one. This is my mother. This was the first time Zuyu had publicly acknowledged me. I was inexplicably touched. What's so great about that? Why didn't you have a mother before? She's probably a stepmother. With a stepmother comes a stepfather. You're in for a miserable life, you little unwanted orphan. Nay-nair. 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 Zuyu got angry and started arguing with him. I couldn't bring myself to scold a child directly. So I looked at the woman standing nearby who seemed completely unconcerned and said, "Is this how you usually teach your child? My child didn't say anything wrong. Aren't you just a stepmother? So you're his real mother then?" I couldn't tell. I would have thought you were deliberately letting your child be raised poorly. The woman was so angry she was speechless. Just as she was about to shove me, a teacher appeared in time and led her away. I continued playing some other small games with Zuyu for a while. We quickly forgot the unpleasant incident, but I never expected our paths to cross again. In the afternoon's parent friendship race, I ran into the mother and son again. The woman had changed into sportswear and was boasting that she would crush me. My physical fitness was average, but I gave it my all. Seeing the two of us competing fiercely, the crowd around us cheered. Just as I was half a step ahead and about to cross the finish line, the brat appeared out of nowhere and suddenly stuck his foot out, tripping me. I lost my balance and fell heavily to the ground, scraping my arm and drawing blood. Yay! My mommy's going to win. My mommy's going to win. Zuyu's mommy is a loser. The brat jumped up and down cheering, but I immediately transformed into an expert crawler, managing to crawl across the finish line, a step ahead of his mom. The brat and his mother were both stunned. Oh, I won. Your mommy is the loser. The brat let out a wail and was about to kick me. Mommy! Zuyu, his eyes red, ran from the spectator area and pushed the brat to the ground. Now the woman was furious. She raised her hand to slap Zuyu. Sitting on the ground, I couldn't stop her in time. Fortunately, someone suddenly strode forward against the light and firmly gripped the woman's wrist. First you bully my wife and now you want to bully my child. Do you really think I, Zhu Qingli, don't exist? Zhu Qingli, he actually made it. The woman cowed, and her husband also appeared from somewhere to smooth things over. Mr. Zhu, please don't be angry. It's a competitive race. Injuries are inevitable. The kids don't know any better. Please don't take it to heart. How about this? We'll cover Mrs. Zhu's medical expenses. Zhu Qingli walked over, swept me up into his arms, and then used his free hand to take Zuyu. A competitive race, injuries are inevitable. Good. I hope Mr. Xiao remembers that. I'm sorry I'm late. Zhu Qingli carried me back to the car. He apologized as he treated my wound. He said he was busy with company matters, and Zuyu had told him it was fine to come in the afternoon, so he hadn't rushed. Then he turned and apologized to Zuyu, who was blowing on my scrape. I quickly said it was fine, that it was understandable for a benefactor to be busy with important things. But he sighed and said, "You and Yuan were husband and wife. You're allowed to be angry with me. How should I put this? If you knew I had a monthly allowance of 3 million, you'd understand why I couldn't bring myself to be angry considering there were still activities later and my injury wasn't serious." We returned to the spectator seats. Zhu Qingli had specifically changed into sportswear. I asked him about it. He stroked Zuyu's little head and said nonchalantly, "I just signed up for an event. I can't let my wife and child be bullied for nothing, can I?" And so, in the final father's basketball friendship game, I watched Zhu Qingli dominate the court. Especially the brat's father, Mr. Xiao. Every shot he took was blocked. Every time he caught the ball, he was tightly guarded. The last time Zhu Qingli's basketball hit him square in the face, his nose started gushing blood. Zhu Qingli calmly dribbled the ball. "It's a competitive game. Injuries are inevitable. Please don't take it to heart. I'll cover your medical expenses. If you insist on making an issue of it, my legal team and I are at your service." From the stands, Zhu cheered, "Dad is so cool." I looked at Zhu Qingli, his hair slightly disheveled, and silently agreed. On the way back, Zuyu was exhausted and fell asleep in my arms. I looked at Zhu Qingli and said softly, "I didn't know you could play basketball." After all this time together, I felt comfortable enough to joke with my benefactor. Zhu Qingli raised an eyebrow. "What do you think I'm like? I wasn't born 28 years old. Before my older brother passed away, I wasn't much different from any other rich kid." His older brother, I don't think he was ever mentioned in the original novel. Seeing Zhu Qingli's guarded expression, I didn't press further. After we got home, he carried Zhu back to his room. At that moment, I didn't realize the gravity of the situation. I leisurely went to take a shower until it was just me and Zhu Qingli in the room. Seeing my inconvenience, he came over to help me blow dry my hair. His fair fingers moved gently through my dark hair. My heart inexplicably started to race. When our eyes met, Zhu Qingli suddenly leaned down and kissed the top of my head. "You and Yuan, let's be a real husband and wife." Okay, what does that mean? We were a fake couple before. My brain, which had been bewitched by his good looks, instantly cleared. And then I learned a part of the story that wasn't in the original novel. It turned out that when Zhu Qingli married me, we had signed an agreement. The 3 million monthly allowance came with a condition. He wouldn't have a child with me until Zuyu turned 16. No wonder he never asked me to fulfill my wifely duties before. I get paid and I don't have to have kids. And now my handsome 8-pack avid benefactor is offering himself up to me. Oh my God, could things get any better? Zhu Qingli and I started dating. Yes, I told him a bit pretentiously that we had to date first. The frequency of his visits home didn't change much, but the number of phone calls increased significantly. Sometimes he would even report to me what he had for lunch and who he was entertaining at night. As for Zuyu, ever since he called me mommy at the parent-child sports day, it was like he had opened the door to a new world. It was mommy this and mommy that all day long. I asked him why he never called me that before. He pouted his little lips. "You didn't let me before. You didn't like it. Besides, you weren't nice to me back then, so I didn't want to call you mommy. And I'm nice to you now?" Zuyu didn't answer. After a moment, he leaned close to my ear and said, "I have a secret to tell you. I like mommy the most in the whole world." I smiled. "I have a secret to tell you too. No more tablet and 20 more math problems." Zuyu, just kidding. I am, after all, the wicked stepmother. One day, Zhu Qingli came home early for a change. He sent Zuyu away and led me to the study with a serious expression. He looked at me and said, "Let's get a divorce." What? I thought I had misheard, but Zhu Qingli's expression was grave. In a flash, my mind was filled with the thought that not only was I about to be heartbroken, but my arduous task as a wicked stepmother would also be incomplete. Seeing the look of utter devastation on my face, Zhu Qingli quickly pulled me closer. "You and Yuan, don't panic. It's my fault for not being clear. It's a fake divorce." He then explained in a low voice that there was a mole among the company's senior executives, and he needed to create a diversion by pretending to liquidate his assets. He asked me to cooperate with him in this act. Hearing this, I breathed a sigh of relief. My cushy life with a 3 million a month salary was safe. But then again, if this were one of those trashy web series about rich family drama, he would have at least used a female secretary to deliberately drive me away. Then it would be, "You torture me, I torture you. We torture each other for 300 rounds before reconciling." When I told Zhu Qingli this, he gave me a complicated look and tapped me on the forehead. I laughed and began to listen seriously to his revenge plan. We were so engrossed in our conversation that we didn't notice someone lying on the floor by the study door, intermittently overhearing words like divorce and bankruptcy. By the time Zhu Qingji and I had finished our discussion, the moment I opened the door, I saw Zuyu with tears welling up in his eyes. Little codfish. Before I could finish, he let out a wail and threw himself around my leg. You don't have to ask. I'm going with you. Me and Snow White are both going with you. We're your private property. Me Zhu Qingji. It was very difficult to explain to a child what was going on. The day the divorce news was released, I was supposed to leave alone, but I couldn't stand Zuyu's loud crying. Mommy hick, don't go hick. I'll collect plastic bottles to support you. A few times when he was running with his coach, he had seen elderly scavengers in the park. I had explained their situation to him. I didn't expect him to remember. In the end, I had no choice but to have the driver take a long detour and drop Zuyu off at my current apartment. The apartment was no match for the villa, only about 100 square meters. I didn't hire a nanny. I spent my days tidying up with Zuyu. I have to say, it had been a while since I'd enjoyed the pleasure of being a wicked stepmother. Zuyu, on the other hand, not only adapted well but also became strangely diligent. He said, Mommy, don't worry. When I become a genius prodigy, I'll definitely lead you back in a blaze of glory. I'll study you to death. Studies me. I had clearly explained to him that it was fake. Next time I watch a trashy web series about rich family drama, I'm not playing it out loud. The apartment was in the city, much more convenient than the villa. I ate a long-awaited piece of fried chicken and let out a satisfied sigh. Little Zuyu poked at the nutritious meal in front of him, on the verge of tears from craving. Mommy, what are you eating? He asked, suffering. But it smells so good. Smells good. Tastes bitter. Kids can't eat it. It's deadly for kids. I'm a big kid. Oh, then let me test you. What's 36,7801 times 5,482? Zuyu Q. Yes, I was doing it on purpose. I had to occasionally remind everyone of my wicked stepmother persona, but I could let him have a sip of taro milk. Hey. After some time I got tired of all the takeout options in the area. Zhu Qingli's company issues were finally resolved. When he came to pick us up, I was cooking and couldn't get my hands free. So I sent Zuyu to open the door. Unexpectedly, when he saw it was Zhu Qingli, he blinked his big eyes and asked, Mister, who are you looking for? Why are you at my house? Zhu Qingli, although calling him Mister wasn't wrong. If I recall correctly, I should be your father. Mommy, there's a strange man outside. Let's kick him out. It looked like he was angry with his father. I answered in agreement but didn't go out. Zuyu pattered back into the living room in his slippers. Zhu Qingli came in and reasoned with him for a long time before he was finally placated. In the end, little Zuyu said, I'll forgive you, but only if you treat me to something to eat. What do you want to eat? I want to eat suffering. Then Zhu Qingli went into the kitchen, rolled up his shirt sleeves, and personally made Zuyu a plate of scrambled eggs with bitter melon. Zuyu Q, not that. The seasons changed, and in the blink of an eye, Zuyu was already in high school. Over the years, I had strictly enforced my stepmother as housekeeper policy, resolutely preventing him from living the life of a young master. He even started riding a bicycle to school. One day he sent me a message after school saying he was bringing a classmate home. I replied with an okay and then started ordering food. Grilled cold noodles, fried chicken strips, rose ice jelly, savory crepes. Don't tell your dad. Zuyu sent back a begging emoji. I mercifully removed one item. It wasn't that the nanny at home couldn't make them, but they just didn't taste as good as the ones from outside. When Zuyu came in, I was grooming Snow White. The big white cat was meowing and acting cute, wanting a fish treat. When it saw that wasn't working on me, it immediately went to rub against the newly arrived Zuyu. Zuyu handed the snacks to the nanny and picked up Snow White, weighing her in his arms. Then he introduced me to the nervous-looking teenager behind him. Zuyu said this was his desk mate Suhoi. Oh, Suhoi. I nodded. Wait, which Hui? Auntie? It's the Hoi from Wynan. Holy crap. Isn't this the male protagonist? My dear son, why did you bring the male protagonist home? I later learned that Suhui was a scholarship student at their school. In his first month, he had knocked Zuyu off the top spot in their grade. The two had been competing academically ever since. He brought Suhoi home today to scout the enemy, but later at the dinner table, he found out that Suhui's grandmother was seriously ill, and Suhui planned to drop out after one more semester to work. Zuyu's compassionate side was stirred. He told me he wanted to sponsor Suhoi. After graduation, he can work at Zhu Corporation to pay off the debt. Me, the great villain, recruits the male protagonist and makes him his subordinate. From then on, the future tycoon of the world would have to work like a horse for the Zhu family company after graduation. Is this right? But looking at Zhu Yu's expectant eyes and remembering Su Hui's difficult situation, I couldn't bring myself to object. Forget it. I just need to be a good wicked stepmother. Other people's fates are not my concern. So I said fine, the sponsorship money will be deducted from your allowance. Zuyu, huh? Soon it was time for Zuyu's college entrance exams. As the wicked stepmother, I also faced my final test to secretly change Zuyu's college application choices. The system said it could turn a blind eye to all my previous cheating. Except for this time, if you do not act according to your persona, you will die immediately. I thought of the lab report I had received a few days ago and had no choice but to open the computer. Zuyu's password was easy to guess. It was mine and Zhu Qing's birthdays. I asked the system if there was a specific major mentioned in the original novel. The system said no, but I had to change Zuyu's choices to something completely different. Basically, if he applied for English, I had to change it to math. I couldn't be bothered to laugh at the system's lack of common sense. Looking at Zuyu's nonsensical application choices, I decisively changed them all to top-tier universities. Sigh. After being a stepmother for so many years, I was finally being truly wicked for once. Zuyu had no idea that I had changed his application choices. Perhaps because the exams were over, he had more free time. Not only did he fuss over me every day, but he also started managing me on his father's behalf. You can't drink watermelon juice. It's too cold. The nanny just mopped the floor. Wait a bit before you go over there. I'm taking Snow White to my room for now. You shouldn't hold him so much lately. I suspected he knew something. You rebellious son, I'm telling your dad. Zuyu stood up straight. Dad told me to do this before he left on his business trip. Also, since I'm not in school right now, I can't bring you snacks anymore. Me, this brat, having done something wrong, I felt a little guilty but also a little sad. This was probably the last of Zuyu's concern for me before the acceptance letters arrived. On the day the results were released, Zhu Qingli rushed back overnight. Our family nervously gathered around the computer. I was especially tense because of my guilt. Zhu Qingli looked helplessly at his hand, which I had squeezed until it changed color. Yuan, this is not a prosthetic. I sheepishly let go. In the end, we couldn't find Zuyu's results on the computer. His results were announced a few days later. The teacher personally notified us. He had beaten Su Hyoa by 2 points to become the city's top science student. At the same time, he found out that I had changed his application choices. He looked at me with tears in his eyes. I turned my head away, not knowing how to explain. He ate his meals mixed with tears and was so angry he didn't speak to me for days. On the day Zuyu returned to school as the outstanding graduate to give a speech, the school specially invited me. I thought about it and decided to go. Given Zuyu's personality, he would probably expose my true colors on stage. But I had done something wrong, so it was only right to be punished and criticized. I sat in the front row, looking at the radiant young man under the spotlight. I blinked my stinging eyes, waiting to face my judgment. But the first thing Zuyu said in his speech was, "The person I'm most grateful for is my mother. Her love guided me as I grew, and she pointed me toward my path in life. From a young age, she cultivated my independence, teaching me to do things for myself. The stories she told me were full of creativity, teaching me to think outside the box. She had me actively participate in daily chores, fostering a sense of ownership in our family. She urged me to take good care of my pet, teaching me what responsibility is. Through her actions, she taught me the spirit of being unpredictable and never giving up." Mizuyu went on, praising me to the skies. It didn't sound like an outstanding graduate speech, but more like an award ceremony for me. As soon as the speech ended, countless parents swarmed over to ask for my parenting tips. I was escorted out of the auditorium by the father and son, completely bewildered. I later found out that Zuyu had never been angry with me. He had deliberately filled in his application choices randomly. He wanted to fulfill my destiny in his own way. Unexpectedly, I had inadvertently set things back on the right track. But Zuyu's reason for changing his choices was so ridiculous. I immediately punished him and his dad by making them weed the garden in the midday sun. Hopefully it would dry out the water in their brains. Zhu Qingli, why do I have to be punished too? A son's misdeeds are the father's fault. Zhu Qingli. Zuyu. Just then, I suddenly heard the countdown for the system's departure. System, thank you. Thank you for helping me cover things up all this time. System, thank you too. For what? For saving the kitten. I wish you all the best in the future. Goodbye. I was a little stunned until Zuyu and Zhu Qingli, wiping the sweat from their foreheads, waved at me. The sun was shining brightly outside the window. I touched my increasingly round belly. All the strange twists of fate. They were just perfect. Epilogue. Zuyu. When Zuyu was little, the nanny would take him for walks. He noticed that everyone had a mother except him. At first, he thought the nanny was his mother. But when he called her that, the nanny denied it with a look of horror. He was very hurt, so he told Zhu Qingli about it. Zhu Qingli was silent for a long time, then stroked his little head. Not long after, he got a mother. This mother was very nice to him at first, and he was happy every day. But gradually this mother changed. She started to deliberately starve him and dress him in shabby clothes. The kids at kindergarten bullied him. He tearfully told her, hoping she would protect him. But she said coldly, "Why don't they bully others? Only you? Is there something wrong with you?" After this happened many times, little Zuyu didn't dare to complain anymore. His personality became more and more withdrawn. Zhu Qingli was busy with work and rarely came home, but he would call to ask if he was doing well. Zuyu didn't dare to say he wasn't because the bad mother would pinch his thigh. She would fawningly tell Zhu Qingli, "Mr. Zhu, I'm here at home. You don't have to worry about a thing." Later, Zuyu learned that this mother was not his biological mother, which was why she was so mean to him. One night, Zuyu was leaning on the windowsill looking at the stars. Suddenly, a streak of light shot across the sky. He had heard the nanny say that this was a shooting star, and you could make a wish on it. He immediately closed his eyes. Shooting star. Oh, shooting star, if you can hear my wish, can you please bring my real mother back to me? The next day, Zuyu waited with great anticipation, but she didn't appear. The third day, the fourth day, until Zuyu himself had lost all hope. One day, it was the third time he had a nosebleed at kindergarten. The teacher said he was too hot, and that his parents could prepare some bitter melon juice for him to cool down. Zuyu pursed his lips, not knowing who to tell. His father was thousands of miles away. His bad mother wished he were dead. He sadly started to cry. A strange emotion surged within him. He could barely control it. Then the next morning, after the only milk he was allowed to drink was taken away, he finally couldn't help but glare fiercely at his bad mother. The bad mother was stunned, and then he was given a glass of bitter melon juice. From that day on, he found that his bad mother had changed. She would buy him new clothes. She would tell him strange stories. She would playfully call him little codfish. She would even kiss him and help him chase away the brats who bullied him. This mother was too good. Zuyu absolutely adored her. He used to think he was the most miserable child in the world. But now he had his own mother. He was the happiest child in the world. He lived these happy days for 13 years until high school, when he inadvertently learned that he was not his parents' biological child. His father, Zhu Qingji, was actually his uncle. His parents had died in an accident, and his carefree uncle was forced to take on a responsibility that was not originally his. Just at this time, he learned that his mother was pregnant. His wicked stepmother. His uncle said he would inherit the family business when he came of age. But shouldn't all of this belong to his mother's biological child? If his mother found out, would she hate him? The angsty teenager, burdened with this secret, resolutely filled in his university application choices randomly. He wanted to return everything in his own way. Later, when his mom found out the reason, she looked at him as if he were an idiot. She stared until his face turned red. His mom told him to stop with these useless gestures. If he really wanted to repay her, He could just help take care of his little sister more. He cooed at his baby sister, who was only a few months old, in his arms. He looked at Snow White, who was rubbing against his leg.